Welcome back to the Lizardmen campaign. Last time we pushed our frontier against the abominations, winning a few battles and taking a few territories before getting peace with them. Then we chased this elven army around for a bit and we still haven't actually dealt with those guys. We are instead now going to focus on another issue of my own creation. I decided to start the ritual for no real reason, and now I've got this very difficult battle to fight against a couple of super elite chaos stacks. Here we go then, striding into battle. We do need to get the fight started sooner rather than later because the enemy have hail cannons, so I was just running towards the enemy as the battle started. Well, I say running, walking with long strides. That's about the best the lizards can offer, unfortunately. So we're going to take a real pounding from all of the stuff they have up on that forested hill. They've also got a few spellcasters throwing magic out, like this fireball, and this one was a particularly nice shot. It went right through a couple of my units doing damage, then went on to actually hit a stegodon. A very lucky shot from the enemy. Didn't really seem to do any damage to the stegodon, so that's nice at least. So we charged forwards, and interestingly the enemy army actually moved out the way. They started going down the hill into the middle of the map, I think because they wanted to team up with reinforcements. That means we are going to get some pretty clear runs towards those hell cannons, exactly what we need, and we might be able to pivot the whole battle to take place with us being on top of the hill and the enemy being at the bottom, so that will give us, in theory, an advantage. So a tiny bit later we've managed to close with those hell cannons and get a few melee started. That's finally going to distract them from attacking us, although each hell cannon easily took out a unit's worth of troops before this happened because it took such a long time. Here I'm actually using my commander because he's got a tiny bit of speed thanks to his mount to go take out that cannon. And you can see I'm starting to form up facing down that hill, really hoping the enemy will just charge up it towards us, and that does seem to be what's happening, so that's good. Well, good in a sense. It could be worse, that sort of sense. I don't actually know if in Warhammer 2 there is an advantage to fighting downhill. It doesn't say there is in the game, but it never used to say there was. But then again, they did also take it out for a while during Total War Rome 2, so it seems to be something they wanted to get rid of. And Warhammer would seem like a time to get rid of it since they simplified the game quite a lot for these titles. But anyway, if anyone happens to know, do let me know. Right now we're having a little bit of trouble on the front line because the enemy's anti-infantry chariots just went right through our units, so that wasn't too nice, and now they can cause some chaos behind our lines. I've got my ranged units targeted onto them. That's going to cause lots of friendly fire as well. They've also got a manticore, I believe, coming to do some damage here, but at least it's fighting with spears, so we theoretically get a tiny advantage against them for that. All of my ranged units are getting scattered away from the actual battle by these chariots marauding around, but at least they'll be able to do a bit of damage to them, especially the chameleon skinks, because they can fire backwards while they're running away from them. Now the frontline engagements aren't going to be especially good for us. You can see I've already almost lost a couple of units here because the enemy have lots of really high power units, lots of chosen and chosen great weapons who are great counters to everything we have. So that's unfortunate, but this is a last stand. We can't retreat, we just have to do whatever damage we can. On our left I'm using my anti-large cold ones to try and bring down some trolls and some enemy cavalry. Not really sure how well matched those engagements are, but it seemed to do okay at the very least. What we really need to try and do is get some demoralization going if we can, maybe rout out a few of the infantry units. I've managed to get a stegodon onto the enemy's flank here, but this giant is going to come and deal with it by the looks of things. That's not going to be a particularly nice engagement for us, plus we're totally surrounded by enemies already. You can see the enemies seem agitated right now. It's because I was going to rear attack with these regular cold ones, but they actually moved out like half of their army to charge down the hill and meet my rear attack. So it wasn't a rear attack at all, and my cold ones will just be completely annihilated. Same fate for the men at the front now. We're pretty much outnumbered and outgunned. At least the big groups of enemies did create some nice targets for a bit of magic here, using the comment attack from my skink priest, clearing a nice space in the line. Doesn't actually kill any of them as far as we can tell, but at least does some damage to the units and makes them a bit easier to kill later on, in theory. Just another one of those magic spells where it doesn't really do what it looks like it does, you just have to hope it's helped out in some way. We managed to kill one of their lords off in the forest here with our own commander, so that's nice. That's one of their spellcasters gone. But that doesn't make a difference to the enemy's morale. Killing a lord only has a very small morale shock, and for units like Chosen, who have morale that's so high that small morale shocks are irrelevant, it just doesn't do anything. So that was a bit of a waste of time from my commander. Probably would have been better to just kill enemy infantry with him. And all across the front line, you can see things are starting to fall apart for us. I have no control over my army because everyone's going into primal mode, so we can't really do any tactics at this point. The best I can hope for is a little bit of skirmishing here with our cold ones to try and draw individual units away from the fight and kill them, but that's probably not going to be enough. I did manage to bring down one of their giants here using some ranged units, so that's very nice. Freed up those units to keep fighting with the halberds next door, who are actually routing, although only with about 2 men left, so not going to make a big difference there. Still fighting their commander there with our spears, so that's a good engagement for us. And our commander's trying to fight one of their giants, but he's very surrounded by everything else, as you can see. Our pterodons are theoretically helping by throwing javelins, but it's not doing quite enough. Some of my freed up units are going to charge in to help the commander here, but all of my stuff's not only out of control, but it's almost gone already, and all of these chosen great weapons they're going to be facing are going to be a hard counter to them, so they are all going to die. And you can see here our front line is just gone very rapidly after this. We still have presence on the balance bar because we do have all of our ranged units and our skinks hanging around at the back, but ranged attacks don't seem to do much against chosen. They have lots of armoured units, and I don't think those blowpipes are armour piercing, so really we're not really doing anything to these units we're attacking. You can gradually pick off 1 or 2 guys, but in the end the enemy will get the better of us. So I'm going to cut now to a couple of minutes later. I basically took all of my ranged units and just ran them around the edge of the map, so the enemy had to chase me for a bit while I tried to see if I could gain any opportunities to damage the enemy a bit more. Tried using my skink priest and some pterodons to attack some of the enemy's melee infantry. Doesn't go very well because pterodons have such low melee stats, they just die straight away. The skink priest does a bit better at least. And eventually my ranged units will just have to fight in melee with the enemy stuff. That's going to be very bad for us, although there is one upside to getting those melees going, and that's that it groups the enemies together, so I could use the last bit of magic available to blow some more guys up with this comet. Looks very, very powerful indeed, but even against the unit that's already very weak from melee, it doesn't actually kill many troops in the unit, so its effective strength isn't going to be going down. Our skinks still going to be in big trouble there. Might have killed a few of them actually with that comet there, and even just depleting the enemy's health is useful because they can't replenish in our territory, so all the damage we're doing to them here should be long term and should help for future battles against them, so it is worth losing stuff just to do a bit more damage to the enemy, especially because our guys are in forced march, so anything left at the end there is going to die unfortunately, but we did do quite a lot of damage to them by the end of all that. A valiant defeat. We did deny the enemy quite a few units, as you can see on the right, including some special ones like hell cannons and giants. So these armies are weak now, they probably won't be able to take another settlement, but we have lost one of our main armies, and we've lost the settlement, but the enemy apparently don't have to decide what to do with it right away like the player does. Instead, they're going to make another move. They're going to bring 2 armies to attack kroq-gar trapped at Antok, and that's not a very nice balance bar for us. So it seems we're now going to face a similar battle. This time our army is a tiny bit better in that we have lots of experienced troops, but we are facing quite a lot of hell cannons in this battle. I think there's 5 in total, and it's a choke point battle. That means we're at a severe disadvantage because they can just shoot us from their side of the map. We could easily lose half our army before the battle even starts, but we are being saved by the same thing that saved us before when facing hell cannons in choke point battles. Hell cannons just can't hit things whenever there's a choke point for some reason. I wonder if it's to do with elevation or it messes up the AI's targeting in some way, especially at long ranges. You can see they're just hammering the ground in front of our army with all these hell cannon shots, so I'm going to let them do that. This is going to work entirely to my advantage because every shot they fire is one shot they can't fire at us. There's absolutely no way we'll be able to break through and take out the hell cannons, so sitting here and waiting for them to run out of ammo is an extremely viable strategy. Unfortunately, they eventually seem to hit us now and again. They started ever so slightly adjusting their targets, so I'm going to change my formation here to make it more conductive to wasting the enemy's ammo. We're going to move lots of stuff back from the choke point to try and draw enemy infantry through later, and just put some skinks up ahead to tank enemy shots. So you can see I've got my skink javeliner standing in a nice exposed position, hoping that all the hell cannons will aggro onto these guys, and it seems that works. They're still missing a lot of their shots, but now when they do hit, they're not going to take anything out that we particularly need later in the fight. So once again, we wait and see what happens. Eventually, the enemy moved some units forwards and my skinks skirmished backwards. This caused the Hell Cannons to shift target onto some Saurus warriors on my right flank. Unfortunately, the bombardment was so powerful and rapid that not only did they almost kill the unit immediately, but it went into primal mode. So now that unit's going to go and fight the entire enemy army on its own. Not very nice. Since that primal unit will now though be tanking a lot of Hell Cannon fire, I decided to move my spears forwards. You can see the enemy's cavalry have mostly come through the choke point and are just sitting on our side. So I thought, let's send the spears in to fight with those cav and see what happens while those Hell Cannons just finish off our Saurus Warriors unit. And what basically happened, as you might imagine, is eventually they shifted target onto my spearmen. That's going to spell their doom effectively, but it also means they're going to hit a lot of their own stuff because they're shooting into melees and the slight hill and the enemy being cavalry, which makes them bigger targets. All in all, just makes it easy for them to hit stuff that's on their side as well. Plus our spears will have an advantage in that melee, so I was willing to just let that churn away. We did lots of damage to enemy cavalry units, so that was nice to see, and you can see here shots just landing into the melee, blasting their own men apart. All good stuff. Since all of my units are going to start going primal as well, that means we can't ever disengage from that fight. We're going to have to just let it keep going, and you can see I'm constantly coming over to check the ammunition left on those Hell Cannons to see how much longer we have before it's safe for us to move about the map. So here we are a bit later, the Hell Cannon bombardment going on and just about finishing off the last of our spears there. They're getting to the point when they're running out of ammunition now. Some of them are on their very last few shots. Since our units keep routing and coming back, it's going to provide plenty for them to keep shooting at for a while. They are actually going to have to destroy our units down to the very last lizard, and as they do it, they're just blasting their own cavalry. That is all good stuff. A little while later now, those spear units are finally going down. There's the last member of that unit being killed, and they've got some chosen who they brought through to attack another unit over here, and they're just about succeeding in doing that, while also losing lots of stuff, both to Hell Cannon fire and to the ballista I have on my Stegodon nearby, which is shooting into the melee as well. At least we now have actually started to drain the ammo of those Hell Cannons. A couple of units run out, and then they for some reason send their crews forward to stand at the front of the enemy's weird formation. As they did so, I'm throwing a few jabs from my skink ballista, since the crew have a not unlimited, as I found out in this battle, supply of javelins to attack nearby units. But nothing else seems to be happening. They've still got another Hell Cannon that has ammunition, but for whatever reason they didn't move it forwards to find a new target to continue attacking us. But since the enemy are waiting for the bombardment to finish, that means their army isn't doing anything. We have stalemated the AI. This, in many ways, was a gift. I was very willing to take this exploit. Here is the guy who's causing all of this. He's frantically digging into the ground for some reason. No idea what that animation is supposed to be. But you can see the enemy are still using buffs on their Hell Cannon. They think it's trying to fire at things. It's got a few shots left, so it could be hitting something. And here's what I think's actually going on. I had a lot of time, obviously, to analyse what the AI's thought patterns might have been. And I saw that its range isn't far enough to hit anything that we have, but if it did actually turn slightly to the right, it would be in range of the skink unit, the chameleon skink, that the AI can't see because these units hide in the open. So what I thought might be going on is the AI actually knows this unit's here because the AI can smell hidden units using its magic AI cheats, but because it's not allowed to target it, because technically it's hidden to their side, it's just stuck in a loop of constantly trying to target something that it knows is in range, but then the later AI is saying no, you can't see that unit, and denying the target ability. So effectively nothing at all happens, and that means the battle was a draw. In the end, I just fast forwarded to the end and took this draw, both sides taking losses, but the battle indecisive, which for us is a win. Now we can at least get out of forced march stance and maybe seek a better engagement. Those 3 spear units that we saw go down are fully lost to us. They were killed absolutely in that battle. So that's a shame. Took out a couple of units on the enemy side as well, including defeating one of their hell cannons. So that's nice because we killed a whole crew at some point during that weird ending phase. Now Chaos attack Plain of Tuskers again for some reason, which I was confused by because I was pretty sure they already attacked it in the last battle we saw there. So now we lose this battle again, and this time they're actually going to be able to decide what to do with it. The upside, as you may have noted there, is that we actually killed a load of full units, since there were lots of damaged things in those those 2 Chaos armies. So that raising that we just took did at least cost the enemy something. Now it's time for the Skaven turn, which we still haven't even got to yet. We've got 3 Skaven stacks to deal with. 2 of the stacks immediately start moving south, a pretty good move. We don't have much down there to defend with. They can cause a lot of chaos if they want. The 3rd stack is going to go to the northwest. Again, a good move. Will be hard to stop it anytime soon. They're almost certainly going to get at least 1 settlement for free there. You can see I'm checking the garrison at Suddenburg, confirming that it's effectively doomed. And I'm going to start moving forces to deal with that Skaven army eventually. I'm going to have to rely on it going somewhere useful after Suddenburg, so we'll be able to take it down before it does any more damage. First though, we need to worry about kroq-gar. He's still under siege here because of the indecisiveness of the last battle, but somehow the 2nd Chaos Army isn't in reinforcement range of the 1st when I sally. That means it's actually going to be easier than I thought to break this siege. We just have to win this battle where we have a small advantage indeed, and then we'll be able to move freely on the campaign map again and perhaps get out of this sticky situation. I'm using a weird formation here because the enemy army is mostly anti-infantry large stuff, so basically things that are going to wreck all of the main body of our infantry. I use this bulky formation because it'll be really hard to charge much of our army all at once with it, but a bulky formation is easy to hit with artillery, so we're still going to take tons of damage as the battle starts. What I wanted to do is send both of my Carnosaurs towards the enemy's hell cannons right at the start and try and neutralize them just because they're going to do so much damage throughout the fight. kroq-gar failed on his mission because he got bogged down by so much stuff, but our other Carnosaur with our veteran champion sort of guy did manage to get there and start distracting that unit. The flaming head of death was eating up our units there, and then a giant goes in for some more damage. Not looking like the best of battles for our regular infantry. It's going to be, as it often is, down to the monsters to just clear everything out. We're tanking so much stuff over here, and we should be able to do plenty of damage as well. Where the enemies are all clustered up together, I'm going to hit them with a bit of lightning here. I hoped this might do well at taking out the chariot. You can see there even one unit that was almost directly hit by the lightning doesn't get taken out by it, so disappointing as usual. Their cavalry are just running rampant through Asaurus warriors. This was always going to be a problem, and it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be, at least. That's the situation we're in now. They're giants, taking lots of fire from our javelineers, but we can see most of the javelins have fallen onto the floor for some reason, so I'm not quite sure how that's going. We are damaging him at least, and these chariots over here are just getting bogged down in our infantry, so even though we have a disadvantage against them, we may be able to defeat them just by denying them their charge bonus and fighting them with lots of stuff. Needed to save our veteran out here because the enemy's 2-headed elder dragon thing was going to town on them, so I sent a stegodon to go and help out. The rest of the fight's going to be a bit easier, and that is mainly just down to the power of our monsters. They really did just wreck everything. kroq-gar killed a giant for not much damage onto himself, and our stegodons are, as usual, just clearing everything up. The enemy's infantry are being kept away from our infantry where they'll do well and are just being stamped on. And here you can see another dream team of monsters just pounding everything. The enemy's cav are mostly anti-infantry units, so they don't get any of their bonus attack against these monsters, hopefully anyway, so we can bring them down. A few magical debuffs helping us out here as we now chain rout the entire enemy army. Looks like we have got ourselves a win right here, so now we'll chase down some enemies to get some extra kills in the rout phase. kroq-gar going to rush over here to kill this almost defeated giant, just to finish off that special unit as well. Certainly don't want him coming in and laying even a single hit on us in a future battle. Very nice stuff. So we have now cleared that siege up. kroq-gar will be able to move out, perhaps get out of the danger zone, or even go for another counterattack. Although, as we'll see, he does have a bit more grinding to do before he's completely out of the fire, and we'll cover that in the next part.